This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Banks Europe at Money2020. I'm still Matteo Rizzi, surviving the third day of the conference, and I'm here with Pavel, CEO and co-founder of Wirex. Pavel, welcome to the show.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having me.
So we were sort of preparing the show earlier, and I was telling, I had the pleasure to meet Pavel just a few moments ago. Yesterday technically, but we never met. We never our paths never crossed. And I was telling that it would be great to talk a little bit about the genesis of Wirex, because me being around for a little while, I think that for the things I've heard, Wirex seems one of the best kept secrets so far of the fintech space, or kind of. So sell me your stuff, Pavel.
Okay, let me maybe start with a couple of things about Wirex. So Wirex is a London-based fintech with 4 million customers, more than 4 million customers in more than 100 countries. At the moment, we are the global leader of cryptocurrency payment industry. Our main product is basically a wallet where you can have your traditional funds like GBP, pounds, euro, and fully featured cryptocurrency wallets. You can exchange one to another, you can send, receive any form of money, and you can use these funds with Visa or MasterCard, the Wirex card basically. We are the only company, the only crypto company in the world who are principal member of Visa and MasterCard. That's basically the overview about us, and it's where we are right now. But we started a long time ago in 2015 with idea to make Bitcoin spendable.
That's interesting. So it looks like, Pavel, you're a little bit at the crossroads of the two worlds, like a mountain. On the one side you got the crypto world, and on the other side you got the regular one, like the classic e-money license. And what are the value-added services that you thought of that could actually cross leverage, both these sides? It's pretty clear the one, for the currencies, the fact that I suppose you can move money pretty easily and at very little cost between one currency to another, and that's the more known sort of side of the mountain. But talk us a little bit more through the value-added services on the other side, the crypto side.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're absolutely right, because there are two main groups of companies. One just focusing on more kind of traditional fintech or like a challenger bank experience, and another group of companies is just pure crypto, without licenses, available everywhere, and these sort of things. But I think the trend we see right now is that these two groups, they started moving towards each other. We can see more kind of traditional players like PayPal. They started adding cryptocurrency functionality, which is in a bit limited form, but anyway. And we can see that cryptocurrency companies, they moving towards more kind of traditional plays. Some of them are trying to get licenses, some of them trying to get more kind of banking or payment integration. I think it's still early days, but we see it's a clear trend. We were focusing on this kind of merging these two ecosystems for a long time. And answering your question, There is still a big demand for crypto on-ramp and off-ramp. So there are a lot of exchanges, there are a lot of companies where you can buy and sell cryptocurrency, but it's still not easy to go from traditional currency to digital. Yes, you can do it right now, but usually it's done via different middlemen, and you lose time, you lose money on different step. In our case, it's instant, it's at very competitive rate, so you can go from one currency to another. It doesn't matter if you exchanging pounds to euros or pounds to Bitcoin and these sort of things. But on top of that, we offer, we have a product called X accounts. So basically, X accounts is an interest earning product. So we can pay you interest on your Bitcoin. It's up to 6%, and we can also pay interest on stable coins up to 12%, which is huge compared to more kind of traditional services. Interest generated in DeFi, and we just put it in very user-friendly way for general crowd to use it.
Let me actually stop you here, because I like a lot this sort of unique democratization factor for the DeFi space, right? And I have like some stable coins, like non-conventional crypto, rather small quantities, and I entered the DeFi like the hard way, right? So open an account on Coinbase Pro, the USSD, right? Conversion, and then put it in a third-party portal that eventually, what part of it does a sort of a robo advisor, and a part of it does like more stable, like DeFi lending, but it's hard, and I had to call my 17 years old son to help me to do this. Now, something completely different, which I understood from your words that Wirex is doing, is that I can actually, get my X thousands of euros, convert them in the app into a crypto, and then basically, apply for example, a DeFi loan, or not apply, but lend money through the platform directly and earn interest. Is what you guys are doing?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so DeFi is an industry known for its, high yield opportunities, a lot of, success stories, but there are a few challenges. So you mentioned one, because it complexity, right? So you need to be IT savvy in order to understand how it works, in order to understand what MetaMask and or if you're using your Ledger wallet, and there are a lot of kind of steps you need to go through. You need to convert your fiat to USDC or other stablecoin, and then put it on DeFi. And on top of that, you will probably need to pay gas fees in Ethereum, which is huge at the moment.
Yeah.
So what we did, we just take this complexity away, and it's exactly what we do on the back end. But for customers, the user journey is quite simple. You put euro or put pounds in Wirex app. You don't even need to convert it in stablecoins. You just put it in X account, and we do all the conversion on the back end.
Okay, and how the account is deciding, where to put the money, or you just have like one sort of lending platform for everybody? How does it work?
We have a couple. We work with the best DeFi projects in the space. So we're working with Aave, we're working with Uniswap, and we're working with 1inch. And there are different strategies how you can generate yield based on the currency. But yeah, the idea is that it's not one platform, it's not one pool, but we have a kind of a selection on the best DeFi projects.
That is actually genuinely interesting, guys. And by the way, I didn't know this before starting the interview. I think that there is an enormous chance here to give access to an alternative type of investments to people that are like me, for example, convinced that decentralization is the future. So it is not, and by coming from 13 years at Swift, I know what I'm talking about when I say that the DeFi is the future. And I don't want to ask you any philosophical questions, right? But Pavel, tell us a little bit, in simple words, because we don't have, we might have some crypto aficionado in the breaking banks crowd, but mostly it's like traditional investors, right? What are the opportunities of DeFi?
So
the ones that you believe are the low-hanging fruits, or the ones that are more sort of appealing?
Obviously, the ideas of decentralized finance is to cut this middleman, right, and have more kind of P2P relationship, or put control over finance into people's hands rather than being controlled by a broker or by a bank and so on and so forth. The huge opportunity of DeFi is that it's global. So you have clients from anywhere in the world, liquidity coming from anywhere in the world, and different countries have their own challenges, and people living in different countries might have different objectives and might be looking for different stuff. But at the moment, DeFi space is growing exponentially, and I think you've probably seen these numbers. A year ago, there were just 20,000 wallets, DeFi wallets, and at the moment there are 5 million DeFi wallets. So it's a huge growth, and I think it continues growing, and there is new things coming up in DeFi space every month, probably, if it's not every week. The biggest opportunities for consumers at the moment is yield generation. So you can get much higher interest on your savings with very, very, very limited risk at the moment. You can go higher with the interest if you're willing to take risks and exploring maybe farming or exploring the new blockchains like Solana. This option is available. There are a lot of opportunities for companies as well, and for startups. I do think there are a lot of opportunities for traditional fintechs to leverage what DeFi can offer in terms of interest generation. It's what we're using, for example, for our product, to generate like 10% on 10 or 12% on your stablecoin saving, which is much higher when you can get in traditional fintechs. But there are also the opportunity to start experimenting and building new models with DeFi space. It's early days in DeFi, and with every industry, early days, there are a lot of opportunities and excitement going on. So I think if you're thinking about building your new company, new business, or new business model, I think DeFi might be very interesting area to look at.
Last question: out of the more than 4 million clients, customers that you have, and I don't even know if you can share this, but it would be interesting to understand what's the what percent of this 4 million is actually doing both, is actually start or try, the DeFi side of WireX?
A DeFi project, we launched DeFi project around 2 months ago, so it's relatively new, so not all customers tried it yet. It's growing exponentially, so every month we actually double assets under management, so it's it's very, very, very exciting. It's quite interesting that some people who is coming from general crowd, when they see that we offer 12% on the kind of stable coins, they can't believe it. They feel that there is something wrong, that it just can't be true. Yeah. But in terms of a split, like how many of our customers have crypto and traditional, I think 90% of our customers have both.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
That is super interesting. While you were talking, I almost think that there's a new kind of financial literacy that this market needs, right? And there is the whole school of what decentralized finance means, not as per DeFi, but also as a new sort of model, right? That is, and I'm passionate about financial inclusion and emerging markets. I'm actually investing in the continent, and I do believe that, especially in emerging markets, this opportunity of, I always say, I know that if I could easily put money in Nigeria, I would fund immediately with my own money some of the local lending platform in Nigeria because I understand the model, I know they're going to repay it, I trust the data, etc., etc. But today, from Portugal, where I live, it's super complicated to put money in a startup in Nigeria. And this is, if I have to explain to my grandma, that's what DeFi would allow me to do, right?
That's correct, yeah. DeFi has a global reach, right? So that's why people from different countries, they don't have this, middleman, and they can interact and use different financial models. Yeah.
So, guys, I think that this was a super interesting, frankly, company that I didn't know of. Now we all are aware of. Pavel, thank you very much for this super interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's a wrap.
The FTS Fest is back. As 2021 develops, it will become more and more apparent how this year can truly mark the start of a second fintech revolution. Starting with a focus on sustainability, financial inclusion, and impact investing, topics that today must be considered transversely. We'll explore trends that are already shaking up the industry, such as embedded and decentralized finance spotting. Be part of the Fintech Revolution 2.0. Join ftsfest.com.
Hello.
Hey, guys, we're here with my friend Mike Kent, and CEO and co-founder of Asimo, and of many other businesses he's going to talk us about. And Mike, it's good to see you.
Yeah, great to be here. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Finally.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about the fact that we met back in 2013. That was probably the last try before I left Swift.
Yes,
And
I always thought Swift innovation was an oxymoron.
Exactly.
It's like military intelligence. Isn't it?
Exactly. And since then, Asimo has done an incredible journey. So why don't you talk us a little bit about this last decade and a half of fintech with the Asimo story embedded in it?
Oh, the decade and a half. So I was very lucky that I came to, we didn't even call it fintech, I came to payments and financial services quite early. I set up my first business in 2005 with a guy who you know well, actually, Ricky, my business partner. And we did a financial services roll-up. So we bought lots of businesses in remittances, and then we put them together. We sold it to a private equity firm. So that was kind of like our first go. But we could just see that all of our customers were starting to use mobile phones for to go around their day-to-day business. And the business that we built was very traditional. It had shops and agents and stores on the high street. So we set out to, I think we wanted to spend $50,000. We spent a bit more of that over the years to build an app that would allow people to do the same thing that they do with the Western Union or MoneyGram. And I think our timing was probably quite good. So yeah, we hit the fintech wave. The company is now 8 years old. Asimo. It's a cross-border payments company, so it allows you to send money to, I think now 190. I don't know how many countries there are in the world, but it's not many more than that. 190 countries around the world, and we aim to make it instant. So it's just meant to be a very easy way of people to push money from one country to the other. And we started doing basically UK to Poland. That's a big market. And yeah, now it's from all over Europe. It's from Australia. It's from Canada. It's from Hong Kong, and yeah, it's been an amazing ride. And I'm just incredibly lucky to have I guess been in this amazing sector that we call home, which is fintech. And obviously, yeah, I guess being an entrepreneur for the last sort of 8 years in digital, you just see all these other great companies coming along. So it's great to be here at Money2020, see all these guys, reconnect with people, hear people's stories. Everyone's had a bit of a tough time, I think, emotionally for the last 18 months, but actually in terms of the market, it's been phenomenal. So
absolutely.
Great to be here.
How did if we take the point of view of the user,
yes,
how this experience changed, during the course of the past, few years? Because at the beginning, the experience was very basic, right? And also the services were limited. How did this experience grew?
So the big thing for us has been, we always aim to be very, very cheap, good value, be cheap. But so actually the underlying infrastructure in all the countries that we connect to, so in places like Africa or India or the Philippines, has become much better. So it used to be that we would terminate payments, sometimes in a few hours, sometimes next day, because the clearing mechanisms in those countries were not great. Now, I think 80% of our transactions are within 1 hour. 50% of them are instant. So you hit a button, bang, and the money is there. And so that's been a big change for us, is the increase in speed. And then, of course, the other big change, which COVID has just accelerated, was, it took quite a lot of persuasion for us to get customers using an app for financial services, because that wasn't necessarily something they did. Quite a lot of people that had a very traditional relationship with their bank, and so for us to say, well, no, look, don't use Western Union, use us. It's cheaper and it's faster and it's much more convenient. We had to do quite a lot of customer persuasion. But these days, you had 18 months that you couldn't go to any stores, you couldn't go to any banks, and so the acceleration of digitization in financial services has been a very good win for us, and it's kind of pushed us along very fast. So that's great.
So you mentioned the Western Union and the MoneyGram of this world that were like clear competitors, right, at the beginning. But now one could argue that the rise of the digital banks, that are of course cross-border by definition in Europe, and there are a couple of future, hopefully, unicorns that are emerging in Africa as well, in terms of like neobanks or digital banks. Do you see them? You see these two services sort of completing each other, or you see them as a competitor?
I think the whole thing about payments, and you've been working in this sector for ages, is it's what my old boss at WPP, Martin Sorrell, used to call kiss and punch. So half the time you're working together, and the other time you're sort of competing like mortal enemies. But it does, so we work with InterSwitch and we work with Flutterwave, which I think, both Nigerian fintech unicorns. We work with dLocal, again, business is doing phenomenal stuff in emerging payments. So we work with all of those ecosystems. We terminate money into new bank wallets instantly in Brazil. And a lot of our customers are actually, we see which banks they're sending from, and increasingly people are sending from places like Monzo, or they're sending from banks like Starling. So we're starting to see things change. We try and be the connective tissue. We don't really mind where you're sending money from or when you're sending money to. Ultimately, and I was having this late night conversation with somebody, I don't know where it ends. I think probably you end up with some very quite diversified large payment businesses. PayPal are buying up all sorts of businesses, Visa are buying up all sorts of businesses. So I think eventually you might see that international payments becomes one of a number of things that people do. But yeah, we honestly don't see that much competition from the neobanks yet. Now, I'm sure they're going to come. If you look at the amount of money that people like Revolut have raised, it's coming. But yeah, at the moment, it's just the market is big enough for everyone.
And I think that there are very few players that which can claim to have such a global footprint as yours, right? Because maybe you might face competition in Europe, let's say between two TransferWise or two Revolut clients.
Yes.
But no one can send money pretty much from anywhere to anywhere at a decent cost, or very few players can, right?
That's true. So there's good and bad about being based in Europe, but let's focus on the good, which is we had to be multilingual, multi-currency, multi-corridor, multi-bank integration from day one. In America, these guys are just, focus on the Mexican corridor, Filipino corridor, Indian corridor, and you're done. That's still 80%. Remitly are going public this week, and that's still 80% of their business. Phenomenal business, by the way. Matt has executed brilliantly. Huge fan. For us, we had to be a European specialist. We had to do all of this stuff because there's no monster corridor. So we had to build these integrations. It's really hard work. We still have a big team of really dedicated boys and girls building these integrations into all these different banks, and we're not even halfway done. But it does mean that network and that connectivity that sits underneath the Asimo app and those integrations. That's a bit of a that's what the thing we're probably most proud of. I wouldn't want to call it a moat, but it's something that we had to do because we're European, but now we've done it, we're pretty pleased with it.
So, Mike, what's cool in payments?
Wow, it's an incredibly exciting time, isn't it? So I'm really excited about buy now, pay later, and I think the Klarnas and the Afterpays are just the tip of that iceberg. So you're starting to see verticalized BNPL, so people finding new ways to pay for things like healthcare or automotive or those big purchases that people make. So I think that you're going to see a lot of that and again, Europe, lots of little markets, all that don't work for consumers. So tackling that I think is exciting. Open banking is finally coming of age. So we're starting to see more and more people use open banking at Asimo, but also once you have that financial information, you can do lots of exciting stuff on compliance and KYC and targeting, and so that's all of those open banking businesses. The plumbing's there, and so I think people are now focusing on what can we do with that ecosystem and that information. So that's super exciting.
You do have actually, a pretty good view with the Tandem Bank, right? Which is one, by the way, of my dear previous investees company with the Media Network. Remember?
Yes, yeah. Thank you for that. Tandem gave us a good understanding, and the UK was very much at the front of open banking. PSD2 when it came out, they sort of adopted it a lot faster than some of the other markets. So yeah, we do have it, and so yeah, really exciting to see what happens with open banking. I think also people like Tink getting acquired by Visa. Now, some people might say that the sector's done, but I think generally when something gets acquired by Visa, it starts off a new wave of innovation. So you're going to start seeing some really interesting small open banking companies become quite large over the next 2-3 years. And I love payment orchestration, and that's just me being a payments geek. But as more and more companies become focused on trying to accept and issue digital money, I think the ability to do that for non-fintech companies is in an easy, fast, and I guess straightforward and low-cost way is going to be exciting. So I guess that's embedded finance and orchestration. I think are going to be the big trends for the next 5 years. But hey, what do I know? I should be asking you this question.
Payment orchestration guy, guys.
Yeah,
payment orchestration is going to be the new buzzword after embedded finance, I guess.
I think orchestration is going to be huge because now you've got all of these API businesses, but somebody needs to control all of the interfaces that you have with these API businesses. So I think we used to very boringly call it middleware, but something that allows you to control and work a central workflow and orchestrate these different pieces of software is going to be those companies are going to be very valuable.
Guys, that was my first interview at Money2020 with Breaking Banks Europe. And I'm super happy that I've done it with a good friend. Mikey, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Always an honor. Good to see you.
And it's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.